Hey everyone, today I've got my Zack Snyder's Justice League spoiler review. As promised, I had seen the movie quite a few times now, and that's 4 times to be exact, and that equals 16 hours of watching this movie. Now, I felt like, as I said, I was going to be doing a spoiler review and talk about all the things that I really didn't want to talk about just yet, because I wanted to wait until people had actually gotten a chance to see the movie and to see, what we had been missing and what we had been waiting for. And so, how I'm going to break it down is basically going to be as simple as talking about the plot and the characters and everything in between. So, without any further ado, let's get this show started. I first have to bring up the fact that there was a huge difference between this version of the movie as compared to what we got in 2017, and the Snyder Cut had a lot of differences from the Justice League movie that we got as far back to the opening scene alone. Not only do we see this movie start out dark and powerful and even chilling at the same time, showing the exact moment when Superman died at the end of BVS, Batman v Superman, but it doesn't stop there. What truly makes it haunting is when you have his death cry be heard all the way to Themyscira and Atlantis, and you really feel the impact of his death compared to that childish interview scene where Superman is being asked by these unseen kids, have you ever fought a hippo? And to me, it just really added insult to injury in more ways than one when you have multiple characters, not just Superman, being treated as though they didn't matter much. And that's why, I didn't think they were as fleshed out and developed properly in Justice League like they were in the Snyder Cuts. It just set the tone in Zack Snyder's Justice League, what we were going to expect going forward, and seeing, what Zack's vision of the film was going to be from that point forward, and seeing the impact of Superman's death, be the groundwork for the entire film. That comes down to having brand new footage and a brand new story to boot. Now, the order of which events occurred in Justice League, I felt like they were rushed through with this idea of a looming threat, minus the details, and the Snyder Cut really focused on, the aspect of the mother boxes and their locations that had them, and we know what happens when Steppenwolf, who is the main villain of the movie, and when he visits both Themyscira as well as Atlantis. And so I really liked how we got to see extended parts of that scene, and also, reworkings of how that scene, both of them rather, played out. I really think Zack Snyder did make good use of his time, and yes, I understand that when you're coming out with a movie that is twice as long as the theatrical cut, I feel like with that 4-hour runtime, I felt like it had the advantage of being split into chapters that made the movie flow even without having the chapters in it. Like, I could just not even care to picture the title screen pop up every single time, and I'm pretty sure there were like 6 of them. I definitely feel like each one had its own, special thing about them that really stood out to me, and I felt like it just really worked with, the movie as a whole. And now I'm going to be talking about the characters of the movie, and of course I have to start with my favorite character of all time, and that is Batman, aka Bruce Wayne. And of course, I loved seeing Ben Affleck play this character and just seeing how, he actually did look like Bruce Wayne. He looked so cool and just doing Bruce Wayne-y things. The way he was written felt so much more believable, and you understand why he wanted to put this team of heroes together, and that's why he was going to, get help with finding the rest of the metahumans to help form this Justice League team. As Batman, his gadgets definitely improved, and I feel like made him an even better fighter out there, and he was just more enjoyable to watch because not only are you seeing him do the detective work, but also kicking ass instead of being that guy who cracks jokes and can't be taken seriously like he was in Justice League. I mean, I really hated how they made his character just seem like, okay, we get it, he's a human, but like going up against Superman, yeah, we know he wouldn't stand a chance. But then they really just made him seem so terrible in Justice League that I was so happy that he was able to be even more redeemed in this movie. My other favorite character, I'd have to say, is Wonder Woman, aka Diana Prince. I felt like there were so many moments in this movie that stood out to me as far as what her character did, like when we first see her, on the job, and she ends up going to this temple place where, she finds the arrow from her mom, but then she also discovers, this whole thing about Darkseid, which is the even bigger bad of the DCEU and of this movie. Seeing how it sort of played out, like she's sort of like doing this Lara Croft Tomb Raider type thing, but then she goes in there and it just looked so beautiful. I mean, it was amazing to see how this whole scene transpired. And speaking of Bruce Wayne, I have to say, I really hope that there's not a potential relationship being formed here and that she's just going to be doing her own thing and not have to worry about, having somebody like that. But, we never know. I mean, Zack Snyder had a storyboard planned, and anything could basically change at this point. That brings me to talking about the nightmare scene, and it was foreshadowing Diana's death. And when we first see her burning on this funeral pyre, I was shooketh to the core. I felt like it was very beautifully shot, and I felt like it was very fitting with her character. But then it was just still so sad because I'm like, really? They took Diana out? Like, no. Man, it was intense. So to see that future potentially play out, I think it's going to be absolutely terrifying to watch. But hopefully she went out a hero. And speaking of another hero, we've got The Flash, aka Barry Allen. And I love when we first are introduced to his character, and especially when Barry is looking for a job and then all of a sudden something happens on the street and he is racing to save none other than Iris West, who he's kind of attracted to, and we didn't actually get to see her character in Justice League. I don't know why they cut her so stupid. And I thought it was such a touching moment because he didn't want to take his eyes off her, but then the look he gave her before running away was just hilarious. I mean, I love Ezra Miller as the Flash. I think he made this character his own. And it's even funnier when he was comforting these dogs, and he was just very smooth with his line execution. I'd say it was definitely perfectly timed. And speaking of time, when Barry Allen has to pick up enough speed to be able to help Cyborg with the mother boxes, it is already too late. And this is when I'm like completely freaking out in the movie. And in this scenario, the League is being obliterated by the blast of the mother boxes forming the Unity. And Barry has to use the Speed Force and turn back time. And I feel like we had seen that before with his character in the comics, and even more interesting was the fact that he was able to heal himself from a prior injury while in the Speed Force, and he was about to run with such force and determination that the sounds of his feet hitting the ground were just so haunting. Now, I don't know if that was just that moment and just seeing it visually on screen, or hearing the music and the soundtrack playing in the background by Junkie XL. I thought it was just absolutely perfect. But as soon as he's thinking of his dad and how he's saying, like, he was the best of the best, and that motivates him to run faster than ever before. And it was such a beautiful moment, and how, you know, just what motivated him was to help save these people that, you know, he's forming these friendships with. And it's just so quick, because he realizes that they would have been dead otherwise. And it's just crazy to see how this all just, you know, played out. And it was just so intense and beautiful, and it's just so crazy how it got cut the first time around, because this scene just really added that extra impact for the entirety of the movie. Now, I'd say that another character that really got me emotional watching this movie was Cyborg, aka Victor Stone. I mean, Ray Fisher did such a good job with this character. It sucks that, you know, they really robbed him from being the stand-up performance of Justice League, and that it is criminal that we didn't get to see just how great he was until now. And not only do they show that he does have a compelling backstory where he's playing football before getting in this car accident and his mother dies and he's almost dead, and the way that his father reacts to almost losing both of them. I mean, it's just showing, you know, what he's willing to do to at least save his son. And I love seeing Victor use his gifts to not only help the League, but also help average everyday people. And it was just unexpected, but I think it was still so cool to see, and it showed that despite, you know, what he thinks are his flaws are actually his inner strengths, and that makes him the heart of the movie to me. There is a moment in Star Labs where the League is going to resurrect Clark, and Victor's father doesn't try to stop him. There's this moment where, you know, he just lets them pass and let them go do their thing, and, you know, he's letting them, you know, go about their business while creating a distraction to deter anyone else from getting into the lab. And when we see how Victor and his father, you know, have this exchange, and they didn't always see eye to eye before, and have this sort of strained relationship, but after the mother box was found, Victor's father is in possession of it and knowingly sacrifices himself in the presence of Steppenwolf and his own son. And it's just, it's so remarkable how this movie focuses a lot on, you know, dads, and just having that relationship that is just so important, and, you know, maybe, you know, just as important as having a relationship with your friends. And that definitely left an impact for me as a viewer. And seeing how Victor, you know, but Victor knowing, you know, that it wasn't in vain, and now he has to take the advice that his father left him and said to him to go out into the world and show everyone what he's made of. And that brings me to Aquaman, who, you know, happens to have this conversation with Diana about the history of the Amazon and the Atlantean rivalry. I mean, it was just so cool to see, you know, how Jason Momoa was able to pull off this character and sort of give him, you know, more to do in this movie. And I really liked how, you know, we're able to see, you know, what connects these characters with each other, and especially with his friendship that seems really, you know, interesting to see with Barry when he points at him, when he ran into him while fighting a resurrected Clark. But it gets better later on, and he's just so fun. I love what he's done with this character. Then, going back to talking about the nightmare sequence and the vision of the future, and not only does Diana Prince die, Wonder Woman dies, but also Aquaman, and he gets taken out by Darkseid. And it is just so intense to see, that happen, that we have two of these godlike characters and with these, special abilities that are no match for Darkseid. And speaking of somebody who is clearly no match for Darkseid, or he might be, who knows, it's Superman, aka Clark Kent. Now, his resurrection scene, I definitely feel like was a vast improvement. Didn't need to see any of that CGI mustache nonsense, and it actually flowed with, what was, originally intended to be seen, and he actually does look good in black. And I feel like when he puts on this suit, this new suit, I feel like he does pull it off really nicely, even though I still miss him in the red and blue. I think, when he's sort of trying to, make a statement like this, I feel like it works for how dark this movie is. So, maybe he wasn't exactly trying to copy Batman or anything, but it just, really adds something and means something for his character going forward. And one of those things could be the future, like the fact that Lois Lane could be pregnant. Now, I didn't see this the first time, and I don't know why I didn't see this. It probably took me the second or third time that I saw this scene pointed out to me. And apparently there was a pregnancy test that she takes, and it's, not known yet if she's going to be pregnant or not, but I'm pretty sure it's looking like she will be in the future. Now, they end up using an Injustice storyline to explain another part of this nightmare future and this vision that's seen where she dies. Lois Lane gets killed and Superman turns evil and basically corrupted by Darkseid, and that's where all hell breaks loose and everything just goes downhill from there, and he has to be stopped one way or another. And I mean, that's the problem with bad guys. They're always, trying to stand out in any way that they can and take over the world. And apparently Darkseid is, the baddest, of them all. And I'll really get into him in a minute. But as far as the villains go, the one main villain that was seen in this movie was obviously Steppenwolf. And like I said in my non-spoiler review, Steppenwolf was a vast improvement from what we saw in the original. I mean, he just really did look intimidating, and his actions really proved it. And the lines that he delivered, I felt, made his reasons for going after the mother boxes and the League were more impactful. Like when he threatened Diana that he did something to her mother, but I mean, that obviously wasn't true, but it was gonna make her mad because nobody messes with Hippolyta on Themyscira. I saw also on the storyboards that Zack Snyder was laying out that, Diana does go back to Themyscira and reunites with the rest of the Amazon. So we'll see if that actually ends up happening in the future. I still don't know what to make of a Justice League 2 and 3. But I might make a video if you guys want to see that, if you want to hear my opinions about any future plans going forward, if Warner Brothers lets it happen. But anyway, talking about Darkseid, I feel like because I didn't get to talk about him as much in my non-spoiler review, I would say that right off the bat, he is an imposing villain that stands out to me. And I mean, yeah, people compared him to Thanos from the Marvel side, but who wouldn't? Because they're both really, positively evil. And especially when he first shows up, and not in the projection form, but actually seen in person, and using his famous Omega beams, which spell out end in the scene where he took out Aquaman. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. I don't know if you guys caught that. But the first time we're seeing the big bad of the DCU, he just looked really cool on his throne alongside Granny Goodness and Desaad, which we also actually heard speak more in this movie. I don't know why they didn't bother giving Granny Goodness lines, but I guess it was a good little tease and fan service for any future plans that they might have. But I would definitely love to see more of them if that would be possible. Speaking of somebody I would love to see more of, and I don't know if it'd be possible, but a girl can dream, it would be Jared Leto as the Joker. And he is in the nightmare scene, of course, that we saw in the last trailer for this movie, but he was introduced in a way that was a vast improvement from Suicide Squad. That is also the first time this is also the first time that he's interacted with the DCU Batman face to face. I mean, just seeing Jared Leto and Ben Affleck, going head to head in this movie, and he's just talking to him about how he doesn't have the cojones to die, and like his mother and father before him. But we'll see if there's any plans to kill off Batman. Because I heard some rumors a while back that, Batman was going to make a sacrifice for the team in future films, and I was like really sad about it because I didn't want to see him go because I love Ben Affleck as Batman. What almost triggers Batman here is, he's still, holding back, what he would want to do to the Joker. And when Joker brings up about the adopted son, and we all know that was Robin, possibly Jason Todd, who got killed, and that's why you see the Robin suit in BVS, as well as when Joker brings up Lois Lane's death. And it's just so crazy how Jared Leto was just, selling this performance, and just how absolutely creepy, and he turned his Joker up a notch. And I thought he was, really great in that HBO Max movie, The Little Things. But to see a new side to him here made it less laughable. Even when the Joker laughs, I mean, it's still pretty creepy, but he wants to make a truce with Bruce. And he knows his name. OMG. I wonder who told him or how he figured it out. And the way he reacts to hearing about Harley Quinn dying in Batman's arms was like, he didn't care. I mean, didn't really come off all emotional about it, but he certainly had a lot to laugh about when evil Superman showed up, and I had a smile on my face because he sold that moment for me, and I thought that was probably the best part of his entire performance at the end of the movie. Other characters that I feel like I should mention that had little, either cameo appearances or, you probably wouldn't have known them unless you looked them up. I'd have to first talk about the Atom. And I love seeing the character of Dr. Ryan Choi, who is actually the Atom in the comics. And we've seen the Atom being played on the CW by Brandon Routh, who was the Superman Returns Superman. But now it's a great tease for this new hero to team up with, whether big or small, most likely small because the Atom can shrink. And Diana did say that the round table with 6 chairs had room for more. And Martian Manhunter was quite the surprise, not once, but twice in the movie. We first see him when Lois has a conversation with Martha Kent about getting back to work even while dealing with Clark's death. But it was revealed to really be General Swanwick from Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. So I thought that was pretty cool that they revealed that. It just made me sort of happy to see him there. And at the end of the movie, after Bruce Wayne wakes up from the nightmare, he talks to Martian Manhunter, who says to Bruce, he has a stake in this world and he wants to fight for it. And now the dark side is coming their way. Now's your chance to take it. But then he must regret not doing anything during the Zod and Doomsday events. I mean, that would really suck if you're just probably one of the most powerful DC heroes, and yet, I'm just gonna sit it out. You got this, right, Soups? So overall, I would say that this movie still lived up to my expectations, and I really enjoyed every bit of it. I will continue to watch this movie to really support the whole thing that Zack Snyder created, and hopefully we get to see more from him and these characters in the future. So crossing my fingers here. So I can't wait to find out what's going to happen going forward. I would still recommend seeing this movie to anyone who hasn't seen it. There actually is a gray version of this movie that I want to check out, and it's on HBO Max. And so I would still give this 5 hearts on the heart rate scale. So let me know in the comments what you guys thought of Zack Snyder's Justice League once again. And as always, you guys can subscribe to my channel. I've got more movie reviews, movie updates. Come back every week for a Child Thursday video. You guys can also like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. And I will see you guys later.